take us a little bit back to some of uh, what the foundations of family should look like, what God originally intended, and how we can navigate some of that in our culture today.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a really tight connection between what anthropologists tell us and what scripture tells us. In fact, Edward Westermark, he was one of the first guys to really study marriage from an anthropological point of view. I've got this wonderful set of books from 1920, a 3-volume set, His History of Human Marriage, Edward Westermark. And he says, it seems probable that marriage came up from primeval habit, which means like we don't know a time in human history where there hasn't been this thing called marriage. Now, from a biblical point of view, marriage was the first institution that God created for man and woman. He creates Adam and Eve in his image, in his likeness. He calls them forth, blesses them, and calls them forth to multiply, and he performs their marriage. And so we have to understand that marriage is the first human institution. The anthropologists tell us that secularly, and scripture tells us that. And that it's interesting, a number of years ago, a number of very sophisticated academics, anthropologists, published a paper in an elite journal on the puzzle of monogamy. And why does monogamy help humanity? Monogamy makes men better. It settles them down. It focuses their attention on one woman and their common children. And it protects women. It protects women from being collected as items in a harem. And it protects them from competition, and it democratizes sexuality, if you will. Every man gets one woman, every woman gets one man, and that cuts down competition, and it ends up protecting women. So those are the things that we have to understand, is that marriage is a fundamental, primary, foundational human institution from secular anthropology and from scripture, and that it is the union of male and female for the procreation, for the furtherance of the human race. And the decline of population is the biggest pressing human problem that we have today. Not too many people, but slowing population down. We need procreation. And then the next thing that it does is, again, protecting women. Monogamy, again, settles men down, and it focuses them on one woman. It's interesting when you think about the word matrimony. Matrimony, if we break it down from the Latin, from the old language, it means matra, maternal, matrilineal. It's for the mother, and then moni is support, uh, obligation to. So matrimony is the man's obligation to the woman to the potential mother of his children, for him to settle down, to get a ring on his finger, to say,
Wow.
I belong to this woman. She is my intention. She is my purpose. Now, the other is husband. Husband comes from the Old Norse word husband, meaning bound to this house. My ring says that I have an address. My address in Colorado Springs, that's where I live. And the
Yeah.
woman of that house is the woman that I am responsible for loving, caring, protecting, providing for. That is what matrimony and husbandry means, is the man settling down to focus on what nature and what God has given him, the woman, the wife that he is committed to.
I'm going to pause right there because you've said some very significant and key fundamental, I can't stress how fundamental this is, that you've just said in just like the first couple of minutes. Because well, several things. I was at a conference recently. Dr. Chris Harper from Better Man, he said, uh, similar to what you've said, he's noticed that in societies where, or in a period of time when men would uh, finish high school education and then get married, have a family, it brings steadiness, it brings stability. And in those communities and societies, they have done very well. When we move away from the path of getting married early, because I think society looks at marriage sort of a bit negative, or
Mm-hmm.
we tend to get married later and later and later for a myriad of reasons. But from his observation and different studies, in those periods and societies where men finish a high school education, get married, start a family, those societies tend to be stable because it brings weight, it brings a steadiness, and it brings
Yeah.
this sort of security.